Are you following what's going on with Disney? You following like the whole going back and forth? I'm going to read this to you guys because there's a new story that came out on the direction these guys want to take it. So Disney shareholders tell CEO to stop wasting money on political crusades. Okay, a Disney shareholder is speaking out against the company's involvement in Florida politics by actively opposing the Republican-led parental right in education bill championed by Republican Governor DeSantis. Ray Keating, an economist and editor at Disney Business Journal, said when companies dive into politics, it rarely turns out well. Here's a suggestion for Disney stock Bob Chapek. Get back to business, that is excellence in storytelling, and stop wasting shareholders' money on political crusades that have nothing to do with Disney's business. We all have the right to have our voices heard on issues, but not on the shareholders' dime, Keating said. Interesting.
Yeah, very
Pretty powerful statement. What do you think about what Keating said?
You know, you're used to strength coming from Disney for what, so long, 40-some years.
Yeah.
They had two CEOs, right? Including one of the greatest, Bob Iger, who just retired. I think Chapek is coming across as very weak in this whole situation. When you want to come across as strong, he's only been in there for a little bit over a year. It always befuddles me because why a company would want to be so politically active, I just don't get it. I keep saying to myself, there are other people who have different political beliefs that like to go to Disneyland and like to go to Disney World. And what happens when they do start boycotting or not downloading the app anymore, right? Because it's all about streaming for Disney, and Chapek comes from the parks business. And I think that's where you could see the biggest drop. When you come back and you realize the prices that are involved in going to Disneyland or Disney World for the day. And then to think that, okay, if I think differently than how they project their beliefs, am I going to be welcome there? Am I going to have a good time? So is it worth it to invest a full day in it? I just think the numbers are going to come back. I think this board member nailed it. I think he's speaking for a lot of people, and it's not just Disney. I think there's a lot of companies that are going to be having these same conversations because once the probably the quiet majority starts speaking a little bit more, they're going to get attention of these CEOs and the board of directors, because how long can you take it? You just cannot continue to take it like this. So, yeah, Chapek, when he came out, I didn't do enough for you. I just thought that was weak talk from a CEO, didn't you? I mean, the memo that he sent out to his employees, it seemed like the only thing he cared about was his employees' feelings. And maybe I'm old school, but when you work for a company, I think there should be part of you that is appreciative for the job. You do your best, and you don't have to let everybody know all day long how you stand politically. Mm-hmm. So I judged him by what he released in that statement, and I think he's going to have a challenge. I really do.
I also think Disney's in a very tough position, because if there's one company that is kind of in the middle of all the drama that's happening in the United States right now, it's Disney. Think about it. I mean, how many of their employees are LGBTQ? They just had a major walkout. Right, you're there supposed to be entertaining families.
You have ESPN,
right? All that that's in addition to you have amusement parks, so you're dealing with masks, no masks. Pat did a whole segment about the difference between Disneyland in LA versus Disney World here in Florida and Orlando.
Right.
You're dealing with kids, so you're dealing with, especially with LGBT, the Don't Say Gay bill, over that critical race theory being taught in school. It's sort of like a bellwether of what's going on in society. And now you have the Daily Wire, what is that, Ben Shapiro's organization, that's coming out, and they basically said they're going to pump in, I don't know how much, millions of dollars to creating more conservative type content. So Disney's in a very tough place. Like whatever direction they're going to go, they're going to piss somebody off. And if there's a company that doesn't want to piss people off, it's the company that stands for family values and entertainment, and there's just a slippery slope. And to Tom Zenner's point, just get back to business.
Have you ever read any biography on Walt Disney? Which I've read a few of them. What a man! What a great guy! I mean, he had his faults, obviously, but when he started that company, it was pretty simple. Like it was a simple thing. He wanted to entertain families, and
the most magical place on earth.
Yeah, and it was pretty simple. Mm-hmm. I mean, now they've been pretty complicated.
Yeah.
It's a giant. Now, obviously, this is the trajectory of what companies and corporations do. Obviously, you always want growth. You always want more money. And that kind of, maybe that's the reason why these companies, Twitter and everything else you see, and like capitalism, some drop off is going to happen, and then there'll be another version of it or something like that. But there's always this trajectory of and I see Disney going that way too. It's like This is what would Walt say? I always say, what would he say?
You know, he was a savvy dude, though. There's a story that came out. I saw it a couple weeks ago, or maybe over the weekend. But watch this one. What's going on in Orlando? So when they when they built Disney World, Walt Disney lobbied the government in Florida to basically circumvent the county, Orange County, and be able to build as much as they want. When they want to build a glass tower that's 25 stories tall, they don't need county approval, right? So I think they pay for their own management of the streets, waste management, all this thing. So it's almost like their own ecosystem. But Republicans in Florida are starting to look at that and say, you have one hell of a tax break here. Yeah. You have an incredible advantage that we're going to examine right now that has flown under the radar screen for about 50 years. Yeah. And there are going to be ways politically for a little payback here.
It's ironic that the Republicans of Florida want to regulate Disney. I don't know.
Well, let me say this part to you. So this is where it makes me think, and I'm going to push back with you guys and see what angle you take with this. I'm actually curious to know how you process this. We talked about Nike when Nike decided to side with Kaepernick after the whole thing with kneeling. And it was, oh my God, Nike stock's going to drop. Nike stock's going to drop. They're going to, this is horrible. I will never buy another Nike. Boom! They made $4 billion like the next 2 to 4 weeks, whatever it was.
They embraced Kaepernick.
And they're sitting there like, no, this is what we're doing. You know, so no, we don't care if you're going to be offended or not. We think we're doing the right thing. Disney's doing this here. And I was like, oh my gosh, I will never watch another cartoon again with Disney and all this other stuff. Okay, we're about to find out if this boycotting stuff is real or if this boycotting stuff is fake. The one part that I think is different, because I hear this argument from both sides that I think Disney's doing the right thing from the left, is the one thing that I will say is how different this is than others is the following. Is we saw what happened in Georgia. Was it Georgia or Virginia? We saw what happened in Virginia.
Terry McAuliffe.
Where the main topic that parents united on both sides of the aisle politically, where one side's like, listen, I'm pro-choice. Okay, well, I'm pro-life. Okay, I'm about entitlement programs. I'm not. I'm about minimizing it. Okay, I'm about we're spending too much money in military. Well, we need more military to feel safe. Okay, but don't mess with my kids. Yeah, me too. Don't mess with my kids. Oh, so we have that in common? Yeah. Well, all right, let's unite. And then boom, election showed and what happened. So the difference, I think, how Disney's going to be going up against Nike is this is kids. And if they think for a second that's going to be okay with parents, I think
I'll point out one other thing too.
Right.
You know, I think Nike was defending one of their stars, which is different than defending, an employee that works at a desk or at a cubicle, which is what Disney's doing. The other thing is Disney's political beliefs come through in their product, right? So it's not like Nike was only making left shoes, right? I mean, you still love Nike. Right. But with Disney, it's coming through in their movies and in their product. And it's coming through on ESPN. The other thing is there's a hell of a lot more competition for Disney than there is for Nike. And Disney's trying to become the #1 streamer in the world. And they have a fight with Netflix and maybe with Amazon. And so I think there's less margin for error for Disney. I think it can hurt them more down the road because they have more competition. And it's constantly be throwing in people's face is how they feel politically.
Right. When you sit there and you talk to your everyday person, they're going to show you pictures of their kids. What do people care about? What do they really care about? I mean, the average person, here's my kid doing this, here's my kid doing that. They care about their kids. You want to see the average Joe get fired up and want to kill something, mess with their kid.
Right.
So that's where I think you're right, where it's going to be like, this is a little different. It's a little different when you're talking about someone's, because you want to see a general populace get angry.
Well, what's the thing that we covered last podcast or last week? With Jank, I believe that they're going to stop referring to kids as boys and girls and now
Disney
dreamers and wishers or something like that.
Yeah. So
when what percentage of society doesn't want to be identified as, hey, good morning, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? No, nobody has an issue with that. But now you're canceling the word boys and girls. That's where you get people with common sense being like, hold on, I was with you guys.
Right. Yeah.
But what's going on here?
I'm out. I'm out.
Kevin said earlier that the nation is lacking religion, and it's not. You're just seeing, instead of God, they're filling it with politics, and this is becoming a form of religion. Hollywood, the politics, the intersectional stuff, the vaccines, the climate change, it's all becoming a form of religion. If you don't follow the orthodoxy, whether or not it makes sense, whether or not it's truthful, whether or not it's backed by science, if you don't follow the orthodoxy, you are a heathen of sorts, and you get cut out and cast out.
You're going to worship something. I don't, because as human beings, we worship things, and so you're going to worship something. If it's not God, it's going to be politics. It's going to be woke politics. It's going to be
the moon and the stars.
Your
it's
own
be
reason.
Yeah.
Your own reason. It's going to be, you're going to worship something, and so we're finding that it's shifting. Now we're getting away from God. We're going to other things, all kinds of different things, and they're not good.
If you enjoyed this short clip, click over here to watch another short clip. And if you want to watch the entire episode, the entire podcast, click here.